Hello, beautiful mamas. Welcome to Conscious Champagne Chat number 47. As promised in our last series, we're going to start debunking the 5 fears that we all suffer from and that really stand in our ways of creating, the happy, joyful, peaceful family lives and the successful careers that we are craving for. And so today, I want to share with you how to turn your fear of failure, in particular, the fears we have around failing as a mom, into unstoppable trust in yourself. That's a lot, right? So take that in. Because we don't want to talk about fear of failure. We all have it. It lives inside of us. But we have become masters in ignoring it and not understanding that very often fear of failure is what is driving our decision making, is what is driving our behavior, whether that is in parenting or at work. It doesn't really matter because it's your emotional coding. And because it's your emotional coding, it's not often conscious. And so that emotional coding runs in the background all the time. And before you even know it, you acted in a way that was actually triggered by fear of failure. So let me give you an example, literally from just yesterday, where my son was, he's 11, so he decided he wanted to make himself some pasta. And I was in the kitchen, like washing up, cleaning up, doing some other stuff, while he had turned on the stove and then walked away to go to the bathroom and didn't come back for a while. And I realized, the oven was on, the stove was on, and the oil inside the pan got really hot. And I've been going through a fiasco like that. So everything inside of me was crunching. And I like yelled at him in panic saying, what are you doing? You cannot just go away from here. That's super dangerous. And I was dumping literally all my fear on him until it hit me. And I realized, oh my God, I am just scared to death that something is going to happen. And so I instantly, when I, took control over my fear and I became aware again, I was instantly, I'm so sorry. I'm just really scared for you that something terrible is going to happen. I'm scared for us that the house is going to burn down. I'm scared that this, the whole thing is going to go on fire. So please don't do that again anymore. And it was a completely different way of approaching him. But very often we just go there, we snap, and we try to control a situation, right? And then it leads to a very dysfunctional and disconnected relationship. And so what I want you to understand is that we as moms, we carry a lot of fears around our children, especially, right? And one of, the biggest one is that something terrible is going to happen to them. I mean, that's like our worst nightmare. But really, the fear as such is actually not the bad thing. What it is, it's usually the result of the failure that could happen. So we're more scared of the outcome when we fail, because that outcome comes with an accompanying emotion, which usually is that if we fail, we feel a lot of shame. When we fail, we feel very much embarrassed about ourselves. We don't feel like we are good enough. And that shame that is literally living inside of us here, that is sitting inside of us here, is taking over control. And what it does is it turns us into, it literally dictates our parental ego. It dictates the way we show up. And the way it shows up in our ego is that we want to control. We want to correct. We constantly want to fix. And so the way it shows up for our children, for example, is that, and this is what I used to do a lot. I had so many fears, especially as a working mom. One of my biggest fears was that I would just not spend enough time with my children. So I would overcompensate. And I would try to do special things in that little time that I had left. And when those times that I had planned didn't go according to the plan, and the kids weren't in a good mood, I would get cranky because I felt like I was failing. But really, it was me who was afraid of not spending enough time with them, right? We constantly do little corrections on our children, like the way they're eating, the way they're dressing, the way their hair is made. We constantly want to, shift something, fix something, move something, because we are actually afraid that we are not doing the right job as a mom. And what happens is that we then parent out of our own parental ego. And we, in that moment, parent out of our own need to not feel afraid. And we miss to build the connection with the child. We miss to see the child for who the child actually is. And quite frankly, we think we have to do that. That's how we grew up, right? If you think about it, that's how we grew up. We grew up, now that you're a parent, we feel we have the right to control everything that our kids do. And that is causing so much stress. And what I've seen in my work is, like, the more you are afraid to fail as a mom, the more you have the need to control. And the less you will see the child for who the child really is. And it isn't, or let me say, the way you then turn that fear of failure into really unstoppable trust in yourself is by meeting that emotion, meeting the emotion of shame, meeting the emotion of embarrassment that comes up when you actually fail. Because when we meet those emotions and we really physically, this is one of the things that I teach over and over, is like, meet your emotions, not just relate them, meet your emotions, be with your emotions. The more you embrace and embody the darkest of your darkest and most fearful emotions, like shame, the less you get scared of them, basically. And so what happens is, when you meet the emotion of shame and you really be with the shame, and you understand that, all the pressure we put on our children, all the ways we need to control them, is because there is an underlying fear. Only then you can actually let go of that fear and understand that there is no such thing as failure. There is literally no such thing as failure. It's everything that is happening to us, our experiences. And the question is, are you willing to learn from the experiences that are being presented to you? But if you look at parenting or anything you do in your life as black and white, like success is here and failure is here, you're constantly trying to get away from failure and only achieve the success. But when you actually own your fear of failures, when you meet the shame, which is what you're really, really scared of, you will understand that there is no such thing as failure, and that everything that is happening is here for you to grow and grow together with your child. And so the way this really shows up for me is, like, I had to go and ask myself, what are the things that really stress me out? Like, for example, when I had a stressful day at work, And I'd come home and the kids were like bickering at each other and like throwing stuff maybe. And like the tiniest little thing they would do that was not going according to my plan, it would really trigger me. I would get angry. And so really, when I started digging into that, what I learned was I understood that, oh my God, I have such little time with my kids and it's all going wrong. Like it's all going wrong. And so then I would lose it at them, I would snap at them. And that then triggered another fear, which was like, oh my God, my kids are going to hate me. They're going to leave me because the way I show up, the way I react, the way I'm snappy, they're going to like, they never want to have time with me. They don't want to spend time with me when they grow up. And so that really turned me then to being even more of a control freak, trying to control their behavior because I was just so scared that somebody would find out. Somebody would find out that I was messing up as a mom so much. And it just got into this vicious cycle where it was constantly just like bullhorns, hitting each other. And it was until I really understood what am I very much scared of and owning that I could totally mess this up. Owning that everything kind of like could go wrong. That's when I understood you can't do it wrong. You can't fail. Because then you can own your failures. So when my daughter is frustrated with me and I'm trying something and I don't know and I see I'm not moving on, I'm not succeeding, I tell her, I just tell her, I say, I don't know. I'm trying my best, but I really don't know how to do this better for you. Instead of trying to control and fix it, I asked them. I now ask them because I have understood that me wanting to control them is a result of being afraid to fail as a mom, which is a result of I really don't want to feel the shame. Clear the shame, the failure will go, your need to control will go, and your trust in yourself is going to grow because you understand you can't do this wrong. But that also requires you to admit that you're scared of failing. It requires you to recognize in a situation when you say to your child, don't run over the street or don't cross like da-da-da, and they don't listen, it's you're dumping your fear on them. When you change that conversation to, honey, I really don't want you to run over the street because I'm just freaking scared something is going to happen to you. It's a completely different way of showing up. That's when you own your fear. When you don't own it is when you say, I told you 100 times, don't run across the street, da-da-da-da-da. That's your fear taking control when we speak like that. When you own your fear, you show up like, I'm so scared for you. I really don't want you to run across the street. Please. And your kids will want to cooperate. They see that you have feelings too. You don't have to have it all together all the time. So show yourself some love. Show yourself some compassion. Meet your fears. Become friends with your fears. And post here below. Let me know what's your number one fear as a mom. What are you afraid of the most? All right? And tomorrow we're gonna destruct another little fear that's happening and that is holding us back from building, the beautiful, happy, easy flow life that we want, which exists. In my world, life is not a struggle. I refuse to make it a struggle. All right, my loves, take care and I'll see you tomorrow.